So now you're ready to write your book. So a lot of people ask, should you use a ghostwriter? Well, you can if you want to. You can get a ghostwriter for all different ranges of prices, probably starting at around $500 to a few $1,000s. But honestly, if you get somebody that's just a few $100s, it's probably not going to be that good. My recommendation is that you at least have a crack at doing it yourself, because this is your calling card. This is for your publicity. This is to make you a speaker or a coach. So it's your voice, it's your story. If you're going to hire a professional at any point, I recommend that you hire a copy editor. So that would be the person that comes in after you've written it to restructure the sentences. So you may be thinking, but I'm just not that grammatically correct, or I don't really have that great of a writing style. If you're doing especially a how-to book, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I can't even spell. I use spell check, and I never thought I could do any writing. So it's not that difficult, and it's your voice, and they want to hear your personality and your style. They want to hear your book as you write. I often get compliments. People say, well, your book sounds very personable. It sounds just like you talk. And that's, I think it should come across like that, unless you're trying to write some, novel, or, do a textbook kind of a book. But this is not what we're talking about. We're talking about doing something that is a slice of you. It's your story, your personality. So I don't really recommend using a ghostwriter, but that is an option. If you're going to use anybody, I would use a copy editor who is going to rearrange your structure afterwards. And I'll get more into the different kinds of editing, because there's the editor that's going to kind of direct you. There's a copy editor that is going to rewrite it for you, a little bit like a ghostwriter. And then there's proofreading, which is much more technical and like looking for grammar and stuff. So recommending a ghostwriter, I wouldn't. At least have a crack at doing it yourself, and I think you'll find that it's fun and it is pretty easy, especially if you follow the structure that I'm talking about, that hopefully you won't fall into all the writer's traps. And the biggest fear that writers have is being able to start, being able to kind of get pen to paper and where to start, and the fear of writer's block, like what do I say, what do I do? And so I've got some specific techniques to combat that, so don't worry about that. So yes, you're going to have a crack at writing it yourself. Something people ask me is, should you only share part of your story, because maybe you're going to have 2 or 3 books? Well, I wouldn't. I would share as much, and as in much detail, as much knowledge as you have, because again, it's your calling card. So don't worry about, well, I'd only want to write one book like this, and then I'm going to write my book number 2, 3. Don't worry about book number 2 or 3. If you write additional books, great, you're going to find more material to come up with. But I think it's important to kind of over deliver on your book. Give them absolutely everything, and more that you have, because I think that people read the book, and I want them to feel like, wow, this person really gave me a lot more than I was expecting. Just like I'm going to write a book now that is how to write a book, and hopefully I am going to way over deliver and not only teach you about writing, but marketing and uploading, a lot of other things. So I think it's important to give as much as possible as you can, and people are going to love you for it, and people are going to want more. And I think the same thing when you're doing courses or workshops or speaking. Over deliver, give them plenty of information, and don't hold something back thinking, well, I'm going to add that to my next book. Your style, we talked about that's important, your personality to come out. So if you're writing a how-to book, you're sort of writing in this style of I'm presenting, as if you were speaking, and that could be to a large audience, or that could just be, sharing to a friend. So if you're writing a how to do something book, you're writing it in the style of I'm teaching you, I'm showing you. So do this, try this, maybe try that, okay? If you're writing a book that is kind of a memory, a journey book, so it would be writing about your experience in order to give somebody a message or to show them how something is done. Or it could be part of your book, could be like a how-to book, but you've got a chapter about your story and your journey and how you came to do this. So in your story, if it's a journey book, you may ask me, well, what tense do I write it in because it happened in the past? Well, my feeling is if the book is, say, a long journey, like the whole book is about your journey. So for instance, this book that I wrote, Spiritual Journeys Visiting John of God, I wrote this mostly in the present tense.